Welcome back, everyone. Did President Biden have the mental acuity to become president for a second term? Did Kamala Harris really have a shot at winning a first term? These are among the questions we asked Karine Jean-Pierre, who for more than 2 years held the job of White House press secretary, a job she describes as a high-wire act, fielding questions from an aggressive media as one of the most public defenders of the Biden administration and its policies. Jean-Pierre has titled her memoir Independent because she is now exactly that, an independent and not a member of the Democratic Party. That's a very bold step for anyone, let alone the woman who was the first Black, queer, and immigrant press secretary in U.S. history. Karine, thank you so much for having the conversation.
Thank you for having me.
You write in your book, Independent, that prior to the summer of 2024, you could have never imagined stepping away from the Democratic Party. What ultimately was the straw for you?
So you're correct. I mean, I worked for two Democratic presidents, President Obama and President Biden, which was both of them an honor of a lifetime. Hi, everybody. And what I saw the summer of 2024 in July, that 3 weeks between the debate and the president deciding that he was going to pass the torch over to then Vice President Harris, it was heartbreaking. It really was. It was heartbreaking to see someone who had given 50 plus years of their career, who had objectively had a very good couple of years as president, be treated in this way. After the outcome, I had an opportunity to think this really deeply. And I do believe this is a Democratic Party today, even from that moment till today, that has taken groups for granted, like Black women. I think they've taken us for granted, like the LGBTQ community. And the rhetoric and what I'm hearing right now in the moment from the party is there's certain groups that have to be thrown under the bus because there's a short-term gain for them. And I think that is wrong.
This book is incredibly nuanced. What would you say to critics who might say, you are criticizing those in the Democratic Party who you felt abandoned President Biden, but then you left the party? How do you square those two?
Black women are the backbone of the Democratic Party, and we are constantly on the front lines, and they've taken us for granted. That's what I see. I am a Black woman, I am a queer woman, I'm an immigrant. And so for me, I represent communities that matter, that are important, that are the fabric of this country. And so when I hear that type of rhetoric, or people are saying, who are leaders of the Democratic Party, are saying, don't do anything. The other side will implode. Don't do anything. When people are taken from the street, disappearing. And so that, to me, is something that is concerning, troubling, and scary.
You spend a lot of time talking about President Biden's debate performance against Donald Trump.
Look,
which at the time you describe as a faltering performance, and then subsequently those who you felt unfairly abandoned him. In your estimation, how should those who had concerns about even just his performance, how should they have responded?
Yeah. So there's so many different pieces to this. It was a horrible, terrible, bad debate. He owns up to it. No one is denying that. But we just had a couple of months left. There was so much at stake in that election. There was Project 2025 that was being touted, that was incredibly dangerous. And I think what we should have done is double down and say, okay, you know what? We have to win, and it's all hands on deck. This is what we have to do. And that didn't happen. And so I do think the cruel way that he was attacked during that time wasn't the way to do it. And then he had to step down. But Vice President Harris almost didn't become the nominee because there was talk of a brokered convention and open primary. I believe these types of actions, people see that.
I want to read an excerpt from the book. You write, with so little time left, the Dems should have put their heads down and run their hardest through the tape. To stick with the track metaphor, they should have taken the L for Biden's bad debate and moved on with their eye toward finishing the race strong and achieving victory. That's certainly what the Republicans would have done. No speech was too garbled, no action too malicious or bizarre to make its leaders speak out against Trump. But does that make it right for either party to overlook potentially grave concerns?
So, a couple things. I don't think we can compare Donald Trump and Joe Biden, two very different people. You have one person who actually is decent, cares about the American people. And I do believe that we should have just continued to put our heart in, lean in with just such a small amount of time left. And that's what I didn't understand. And that is the difference. And I don't think that this two-party system is working. I do think it's broken. And we need to figure out how do we create a system where the people are at the center of this in order to move this country forward. And this is why I wrote Independent to start that conversation. And hopefully I've done that.
You talk about being definitely a part of the president's inner circle, his daily routine. Was there ever a time that you observed anything with his mental acuity that gave you pause?
No, not at all. He is someone that I engaged with almost on a daily basis, and he understood policy. He was very good at debating policy with his team. I watched that happen. He was very on top of history. And so I saw someone who put this country first and engaged on a daily level to make sure that he was doing what he can for the American people. That was my experience.
Lastly, I want to go back to a point in the book where you say on November 5th, when it was clear that Vice President Harris had not won the presidency, you say you were not surprised that you didn't expect she could win.
And I want to be very clear, not because she wasn't qualified. I think she was more than qualified and should have been president of the United States. I want to be very clear about that. Being a Black woman, walking through this earth, these different communities, and being who I am, and experiencing what I have experienced, which I talk about in the book, I'm not surprised. I'm not.
Karine Jean-Pierre, we thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Her memoir, Independent, a look inside a broken White House outside the party lines, is out today.